Hello and welcome back to the FloTrack podcast. I'm Kevin, joined by a melancholy Gordon Mack. His Sixers are just 3 games away from elimination. Are you okay, Gordon?
This is not an NBA podcast. This is a track and field podcast. We do not talk about NBA, especially less than 12 hours after a loss. Hey, man, we almost won that game. I know it says we lost by 8 or 9, but we were down 4 with the ball under a minute left, and then they just had to stop. If we would have scored there, then you're down 2. Basically, then, yeah, it sucks.
Okay.
So it's
over,
Ben Simmons.
pretty much.
It's not over. It's over until you lose 2, right? Because you're not going to sweep every game. You're not going to go 16-0 in the playoffs, right? I mean, we lost game 1 last year as well. So at home to Brooklyn. And then we came back and won 4 in a row. So, and then 2 years ago, the Sixers lost game 2 at home. They went 1-1. So the past 2 years, they've gone 1-1 in the first 2 games. So if history repeats itself, we should go 1-1 in this situation.
I'm curious if the normal dynamics of, they're up 2-0, they got a huge advantage, just changes completely because there's no home court in this bubble setup. Still, it's going to be crazy if there's a 3-0 comeback. Obviously, that would be unprecedented. But I'm just the normal patterns we get used to when we watch NBA playoffs with the home court advantage are completely out the window now. I wonder how that's going to play out.
Yeah. I think the ultimate thing about the 3-0, once a team goes up 3-0, again, I guess we're now an NBA podcast again, is there's that temptation. I have 5 more questions on this. There's that temptation from the team that's down 3-0. It's like, we've been in this bubble for over 45 days. Let's just go home. And you're just the temptation of home is going to be so loud when you're down 3-0 because you're like, screw it, we're out, we're done. Let's just lose and go home. Whereas you're down 3-0 in a playoff series, you're not. You're like, you're going home either way. It's just a little bit more like, hey, you're playing. I just feel like you might be a little more tempted to get out of the bubble.
Yeah, I don't think losses are going to sting as much this time around, just because it is such a weird season and because they are going to get to go home and see their families for the first time in a couple of months. Now, I'm not saying that's what you can blame the Sixers' failures on, because let's be clear, these are huge, enormous, loud failures from one of the loudest. We hear about them all year, and then they just come to the playoffs and underperform on a yearly basis. But if you're a player,
every team underperforms on a yearly basis. That's the thing. Every team. Who doesn't underperform? The Toronto Raptors lost to LeBron 13 years in a row before they won, right? It happens. Yeah, I'm sick of this underperform. Who overperforms? Just LeBron and the Warriors? Is that it? Is that the list? If you're not LeBron or the Warriors,
there's a lot of teams that have overperformed this year. The Thunder have overperformed this year. I don't think anybody thought they were going to.
They haven't won a playoff game.
What year were you born? I'll leave on this. What year were you born?
1987.
Okay. So you were born 2 years after the last Sixers championship. Wouldn't you like to see them overperform once in your lifetime? Just once. Just once would you like to see them overperform? I'm not saying they have to overperform every year, but just once.
I would.
You've been on this planet a long time. During that time, you've seen many different presidents. You've become a successful Division III 400-meter runner. You've gotten out of shape. You've become a content creator. You've worked in a bunch of different jobs. You've been to a million different
throwing
meets.
The gotten out of shape, man. That's a little dig.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm showing this. I'm just saying that. But you've gotten back into shape, and then you probably got back out of shape again. You've done several cycles, and during that entire time, the one constant is that you've never seen a Sixers championship. I will say this. They did overperform in the Iverson era. Because that was one guy basically putting the entire team on his shoulders, and they did better than I think most people would have thought. But, since then, it's been rough. And we, other NBA fans, just have to hear about the Sixers constantly. So that's why we're probably chuckling a little bit this year. But if you're going to lose, I think this year to lose for mental sanity. That's my take.
You know the last Iverson game I ever saw in person was? I got the tickets right here. Right there.
Didn't you go to the I can't see it. What's it say?
You can't see it. It's Game 5, NBA Finals 2001. where we lost and the Lakers go on and win. I had to watch the Lakers celebrate. I am the problem.
That's the last time. No wonder you're so upset about this.
I was scarred as a child. How old was I? I was probably like 14, 13. I don't know. It was not good times. Anyway,
before you became the moderately successful Division III runner. All right, do you want to talk about track?
Track and field, baby. Tomorrow.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: we did not prepare what we're going to talk about on this pod. Normally, we have like a little bit of like a 2-minute. What are we talking about? Okay, yeah, we'll talk about that, and then we go live and we talk. We already talked about this meet coming up tomorrow live on FloTrack. What else are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about it again. There are some new entries. Who are some new entries into this new meet that is live on Flo?
Noah Lyles. Yeah, 10 a.m. Central is when the coverage starts live on Flo in the United States from Shekesh Gavayavar. We found out after we recorded yesterday, Lyles is running the 100. He's in there with Mike Rogers and Adam Jamili. That's an addition that we weren't expecting. Daphne Shippers is in the 200 against World Championship bronze medalist Munjinga Kambunji. That's exciting. So there have been some names added to the program at the 11th hour. I think all total, they said there's going to be 6 World Championship gold medalists in this meet. This really has a feeling, Gordon, of like a diamond, like the second stop almost on the Diamond League. If Monaco was the opener, this one is stop 2, and then we're going to see Stockholm this weekend. So in this truncated schedule, this is attracting a ton of big names. So I'm very excited about it. Lena Irby's going to be in that 200 with Shippers and Kambunji as well.
Yeah, well, I have a feeling it's going to be the same group of people racing each other in all these meets. Because if you looked at the next Diamond League, it's literally a repeat of the Monaco meet, right? The 800 has a lot of same guys, 1500. Like, I think it's like there's a select group of people who decided, hey, yeah, we are doing a 2020 season, and that's that group, and they're just going to repeat racing each other. So it's going to be interesting to see what motivates these athletes, right? Like, what's going to be the carrot for them? I mean, what motivates Noah Lyles? I mean, is he trying to be a sub 19.5 guy in 2020, or is he just going to cruise through every race? I think Donavan Brazier has a big carrot, right? He feels like he's fit, he's young, he's healthy. I mean, this 600 could be a launching pad to maybe running a 141 down this road in the season. Yeah. I'm also looking forward to this 600. We talked about it a bit yesterday, but I think he's going to get the world record. I just think it's happening. He's going to do it. Let's just say it.
Now, are you saying that because you believe it, or are you saying that because of Cheptegei, the Cheptegei effect?
I'm saying it because it's live on FloTrack. No, I'm just kidding. No, I just think like I said, I think he has the perfect 600-meter type runner, right? Mm-hmm. It's just there's certain types of really good 600-meter runners. I mean, you think about what dang it, Kaz Loxam. I know that's like a name that he retired a few years ago, but he was like the perfect type of 600-meter runner. He was a great 800-meter runner, but he came with a 400 background. He had that speed. He could run a fast 200. I just felt like so Kaz was able to run fast indoor 600s. But Donavan is just like another level of that, right? You're taking an even better 400-meter runner and an even better 800-meter runner. You're going to get an even better 600, right? So he's already run 113 indoors recently, 112. Man, I think he's at least going to break 113. If he doesn't get the world record, it'll be like 112.99. That's what I think.
I dug more into this after we spoke about it yesterday. And I looked specifically at that Rudisha 113.1. That's the number 2 mark all time. And of course, David Rudisha did it. So we're going to put a lot of weight on that. But a couple things to consider. That was David Rudisha in 2016, which was not the same David Rudisha as 2010, 2011, 2012. David Rudisha, still good. He went on to win the gold medal later on that year, but not the unstoppable force that he was earlier in his career. And in that same race, he had someone right on his heels, Pierre-Ambroise Bosse, who again went on to win the world championship and he ran 113.21 in that 600, so just a 10th behind Rudisha. I don't think anybody would say that Pierre-Ambroise Bosse is head and shoulders better in the 600 than Donavan Brazier is currently at this moment. So I think you could start with that as a marker of like 113.2. Also, you factor in the fact that Brazier ran a 113 indoors. 600 is not easy to run indoors. That's a lot of turns at a very quick speed. It's like the 400. It's tough to get going. I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to do it when you look at, again, his profile as a 400 and 800 meter guy, the shape he's in right now, and also the fact that, that Rudisha mark, not obviously as strong as his 140.91. In that 600, Gordon, he went through 447.17. That was his first 400 meter split, and then held on. I also looked at Rudisha's world record. He split 114.30. So when he ran 140.91, he only ran basically 1.2 seconds slower than he did in this 600. So clearly Rudisha at his peak could have had this record. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But this run was not done with Rudisha in his peak. So I think, all that being said, I'm going to take Brazier here to get this world record. I think he's going to run 112.64.
It's a very specific number. Do you know what I think he's going to run? 112.01. You know why? Okay. Because a 113.7. Well, I just did. I bust out the IWF scoring tables. A 113.77 indoors is worth 1,277 points. 1,277 points on an outdoor 16 on an outdoor 600 is 112.01. So,
I like how you said my prediction was very specific, and then you countered with something just as specific.
Yeah, and it also it converts to an 800 meter outdoor time of 141.69. I feel like Donavan at his max
That's not crazy.
could run a 141 mid high. Yeah, he's definitely going to run 112 low. I mean, let's just put a button on it. It's happening. 112.
Also, low. the fact that, I mean, I think 112.64, but agree to disagree. We'll put the over under here at 112.36. The fact that Wesley Vasquez is in there also helps. He's a front runner. He'll get the pace going. Rudisha and Boss did not have a rabbit in their 600 meter race in 2016. It probably was for the better in a way, because you just get out of the way. It's controlled chaos there. Unless there's a crazy pacing mishap. Again, I think he's going to get it. You think he's going to get it. And then he's going to go on Sunday to race in Stockholm, another 800. Perhaps that's when he's going to crack that 142 barrier.
Yeah, I think we're seeing 112 and then 141. Let's do it. That's what we're going to get.
Okay.
That's. I mean, he's so fit. There's no pressure. I just feel like he wants to get something out of this year. He's kind of stripped of being the Olympic title contender in his prime. I mean, he'll still be in his prime in 2021, but every year you get older, you never know, right? Because an injury can come without any warning. So I think he wants to try to take advantage of this time as much as possible, being healthy. And I think he's going to go out. I think he's out there to get some fast marks. I think he's not out there just for a show. I think he wants to prove his fit. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what. I mean, we already talked about this, but what's like he's definitely going to be the fastest ever 600 to 1500 guy, right? He's got to be, right?
Not yet, but he will be.
Not yet. He will be. That's range, man.
When he runs a 1500 all out. I hope at the end of this Brazier European Tour. I don't know all of his stops here. I know he's going to run that 800. He's in the start list in Stockholm, but it would be awesome that if before he leaves Europe, he hops in one of these 1500s. That would be awesome.
Oh yeah.
And he doesn't need to worry about Chariot at all. He just sits off that pack. He does not worry about, or not even that pack. He sits off of that guy. He lets Chariot alone and just sits in the back of that other pack that's going around in 330 pace or so, just to see.
So we're going to have a season. We're projecting on August 18th. Starting tomorrow, he's going to break the world record in the 600. He's going to run 141 in the 800. And then he's going to go out and run like a 332 or 331 in the 1500. That's a hell of a triple. That's a hell of a resume for the 2020.
If he does, the 5000 is the lowest possibility of those things, just because I don't know if he has any interest in running that race. Maybe the one in the big friendly was it. You asked earlier what was motivating Lyles, and I thought of one thing, because right now he doesn't have the world lead in the 100. He got his world lead back on the 200 when he ran the 1976 in Monaco. His 100-meter season best this year, though, he had 2 windy 993s. But right now it's Michael Norman at the top of the 100 with that 986, which also happens to be Lyles' personal best. So he could accomplish 2 things at once here. If he gets under 986 on Wednesday, he could better his personal best, and he could get atop the world list for 2020.
Yeah, I mean, his season's best this year is 10:04, so he's definitely looking to run a sub 10. Yeah, I mean, hey, this guy is definitely holding back something, right? He's a lot better than a 976. He's a lot better than a 10:04 or 10:04. It's just like what? Yeah, I can see it. He wants the world lead, but I mean, does he? I honestly don't think he. Do you think he'll even know that? Maybe he does, but like,
I think
do you think he
I
like?
think he knows Norman ran 986. I think he knows Norman ran 986. Those guys have been
Yeah,
competing against each other for years now.
But do you think if he goes out and runs 988, he's going to be upset?
He's not going to be upset,
like,
but I just don't think he's going to. I don't think he's traveling all the way over there to run this meet to not give it a full go. And I think if he is planning on doubling next year, this is obviously great practice. He probably wants to get that 100 time down, Coleman or no Coleman, in 2021. He wants to get the 100 time down to become a real threat, because now you also have the rise of Bromell. Right. Norman's not going to run the hundreds. You don't really need to worry about it. Norman is just sitting atop that world list just to show his range to everybody. But Bromell is obviously a real threat to that 100, 200 double. Nobody right now is touching him in the 200. Kenny B's been the closest, but Lyles will enter the next season as a big favorite in the 200. But the 100 is where the questions are. And remember, his PR 986 from Shanghai, that was early in the year last year that he ran that. So he can get going. He doesn't need a bunch of races. He's already had several hard efforts. I think we're going to see something quick. I think we could see him go under 985 in this race.
Hey, I won't mind. I won't complain. What's the name of the city of what?
Everybody.
What's the name of the city of where the race is happening? What's the name of it?
Shekesh Gavayavar.
There you go. Sounds like a entree at a like it sounds like a appetizer. I'll have some Shekesh Gavayavar to start.
Yes. One day I will go to the city.
I do have a question for you. This is going to be coming out of left field. You're not prepared for this question, but it's something I've been thinking about ever since Cheptegei's 5K world record. If you had to pick one athlete, who would you? All right, you're a coach, or you're a manager, you're an owner, and you get one athlete, currently active athlete, to run in a race where they have to see how many laps they can go consecutively of breaking 60 seconds. So the first split needs to be under 60. The second split needs to be under 2 minutes. The third split needs to be under 3 minutes. So basically, you always have to be 3:59.99 mile pace the entire time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see how many laps you can go before you go over the time. Because we're thinking about the reason I was thinking about this is because Cheptegei, I mean, he's 5 seconds away from 60 flat pace per lap, right? 12 and a half laps of 60 flat. And I was thinking, how far can a human go of running 60 flat pace before they slow down? And who do you think would be able to get the farthest right now? Like, is it Cheptegei? Is it someone like Ingebrigtsen? Is it someone like Chariot? I don't know. Is it? Yeah, I don't know. So who would you pick, and how many laps do you think they could go?
It would either be, those are the names I thought of immediately. Jacob Ingebrigtsen, obviously Cheptegei, maybe someone like Kajelka. I think right now Cheptegei, just based on what he did, could go 10 laps at that pace.
10 laps.
I don't think that's crazy. Like at 59.999. Yeah.
I was also trying to think, like, what's the record?
9 and 10. What's the record for? That's not an event that's run. I mean, the 2 mile record is under 8 minutes, so that's 8 laps. Obviously that's a crazy mark, but it's still. I mean, Daniel Komen did that on 2 occasions.
You think he gets to 10?
I think if he can run. I mean, what did his average work out to? I know his average worked out to 403 mile, but that's 1,609 meters. That's not 1,600. So his average worked out. He didn't run anything over 61, right?
It was 12:35.36. Right? 12:35.36 divided by 12.5. Yeah. I mean, so it was.
Gordon's on the
60.43. 60.43.
Okay, so he takes off. If you take off 2.5 laps, could you go 0.43 seconds faster per lap? Yeah, I think you do that. Yeah. I think Ingebrigtsen. I think Ingebrigtsen would be the second best at it, and I think Ingebrigtsen could get close to that. But I would still just take Cheptegei just because of what he just did, obviously.
I was just thinking this would be an incredible thing to witness, in my opinion. You know, we talk about like elimination miles and all the stuff and like different like mixed 4x4s, relays and different things. Because we never see someone try to run that pace as long as possible, right? Because even when you're trying to break the world record, you're not trying to run sub 60 every time. You're trying to run 60, 61s, right? And it's just like it's a weird feat, right? I don't know. I think it would be kind of cool to see how. All right, maybe take out active. Do you think there's anyone in the past who could have gone more than 10 laps? Do you think Gamework could have got to 11 laps? Like, do you think Bekele could have got 11 laps?
Yeah, maybe. I peak Daniel Komen. So you could actually do this though and make it interesting because with that wave light technology, you could put you could have like the front marker, which is say it's going through it at say 59.5 or something, or if you just say 59 flat, and then you could have the light stretch to the back, which is at 60 flat, and just say, hey, the front of the light is to keep you on pace. You don't want to go any faster than this, otherwise it's going to be bad news. And if you're behind the backlight when you cross the finish line, you're out. And it would actually be, I think it'd be pretty entertaining to watch something like this. And it would be fun to have people like Chariot in there because for him, 59.5 looks like a complete walk. So it would be fun to have some of those other guys in there from different disciplines, or maybe a peak Mo Farah would have been fun to watch with this as well too, because he'd probably just try to kick the last 80 meters every single time to catch up to the light, and then he'd probably slow down a little bit and then keep going and then kick again.
Well, it'd just be, you would slowly see people like die. Right? Because it's like it's gonna be in the beginning. They're like, okay, we got it, we're good, and then you're like, it's coming. It's getting harder. Like eventually, it's like you just know eventually they're gonna crash because you can't do it forever, and it's just like I don't know. I think it'd be a cool race to watch. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how we get that to happen.
There'd be the embarrassment of someone who loses focus for a little bit on the second lap and then gets eliminated just because they like weren't paying attention and everybody picked it up and they didn't beat the light on that first one. I think it's a cool twist on the elimination mile where you're racing people and someone has to drop out. This is saying basically, no, you don't have to drop out as long as you can hit that marker. Keep going. Yeah, I'd watch this.
Yeah, we gotta make it happen. I mean,
I like because it's 60 seconds too. Because it's 60 seconds, it's compelling because it's that even number. I know it's a 1,600 and not a mile, but it's right close to 4-minute mile pace. So you're just marveling at them. Click those off. On the women's side, I don't know what the equivalent time would be. Would it be like a 60, 66, 67 maybe? Something like that. Obviously, Sifan Hassan. Last year,
the math will start getting hard. The math will start getting hard because it's going to be uneven numbers. That's the unfortunate. You have to change the time system to make a second a little bit longer. So then every time they cross it, it's at 1 minute, at 2 minutes. But it's like converted.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Create a different unit of
Yeah,
time, basically. I like
create
that.
it, or make it like a different size track
Like
or something like that, just so you can have that
like
symmetry.
60 max, not 60 seconds. 60 max, and one Mac is 1.023 seconds.
Yeah,
That's what you need.
it's like a Badger miles that Jerry Schumacher does, right? It's just like a
Yeah.
certain pace.
But the good thing is with the light, you just say, "Hey, follow the light," and you make the light
Yeah,
bright enough so that everybody can see it, and then it's just them versus this light.
yeah. They need
Or
to
you
figure
can
out a
create
way
a
to
hologram, so it's like actual person running around with them.
that. I mean, that would be scary, but that'd be kind of cool. I think the only problem with
An
the
animal.
wave light stuff is it's hard to see on during the day.
Yeah.
They need to figure out
I
maybe they should. I think during the day it shouldn't be a light; it should be a mechanical device. Like it should be like a
mhm,
object that's on a track that just moves at the pace like a train, and it's like a
mhm.
solid color that you just see cruising around, as opposed to a
Yeah,
light.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. With like a big flag on it so everybody can see it across the stadium.
Yeah.
I didn't You're right. I always have trouble seeing it. And my co-host in the house around, Jason, pointed out the fact because people are talking about, oh, Cheptegei, he had the benefit of wave light technology. Is this fair? And Jason's saying, I would believe that argument, except for the fact he was ahead of the light in the last couple laps. And I didn't even notice that. But apparently he was ahead of the light because they had it set to world record pace. So he wasn't looking over his shoulders and like checking where the light was. He was just going all out. But I'm with you. I had a tough time actually picking up on where it was. I think they could make it a little brighter when they do the 60-second elimination challenge that
I think it is
you
bright.
proposed.
I think it already is bright enough. It's just that the through camera and the glare of sun, it just can't do it. I think
Do you
that's the main
remember?
issue.
Do you remember when Fox put the light on the hockey puck? Are you old enough to remember that?
Yeah. Do you know that was the first type of technology that then was used to create the uh first
Oh,
down
first and 10
marker?
line. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Like that
No,
was the first of that. Yeah.
it was. I thought it was going to work better than it did. Probably the same thing with the wavelength technology. With the hockey puck was just going too fast. It was just too difficult. Uh, but it was solving a problem. It was trying to solve a problem. But that's what I think of when I think the wave light is like sometimes I pick up on it and sometimes I don't see it. But can you imagine life without a first and 10 line now? I can't.
Oh my god. That's why like it's not as fun. I feel like it's more fun to watch a football game on TV on an HD TV than it is to watch it in person. In a way, you're not freezing cold. You can get food whenever you want. You can pause it and come back. Yeah. I also speaking of wave-like technology and even just like visual technology for track meets, like like during a swimming competition, they do like world record pace. Stuff
Mhm.
like that. What type of what and even in track, sometimes they put like a flags in each lane so you can kind of see like this is Lyles's lane, this is Norman's lane, to kind of show everyone where they're from.
Yeah.
What what type of visual would you want added to like a broadcast to kind of enhance watching 8 people run in a circle?
For distance races, current speed and pace projection would be fun. In the Olympics, not as important because they're just racing for place, obviously. So time's not that important, but it would be fun just to see the different escalation in paces. Might be cool. This is more than just a visual representation, but you get to the point where you could have like their heart rate and stuff, so you could see how much everybody's pushing at that time, because the competitors wouldn't know it, but we would know. Man, Jacob Ingebrigtsen is barely working right now, and he only has 800 to go. He's going to crush everybody because that other guy's heart rate is at 203 right now.
Yeah, it'll be
That'd be
like
fun.
watching. It's like watching poker. Both people's hands. They don't know each other's hands. But you're like, oh, dude, this
Well,
guy's bluffing right now. He's gonna be dead after this kick, and then like, does he like let him go? That'd be an interesting. Knowing people's heart rate would be awesome. But then you'd have like
it,
coaches like with the screen up on their phone, and then be like, he's dying. His heart rate is at 130.
yeah, no, it would be funny though too because someone would have a bad race, but their heart rate didn't get that high. So then everybody like, wait, did they just stop trying? Their heart rate never got above whatever. And then the post-race interview, you'd be like, hey, listen, I know you said you were out of gas there, but according to this data, you really weren't. So-and-so was working way harder than you. What's the deal?
Yeah.
What would you like to see?
The heart rate thing would be cool. I would like, I mean, they do splits, right? They do splits every 400, right? Sometimes they do it every 100 for like crazy races, but a 100-meter split doesn't mean nothing to me. I think if there was just like a ticker, not ticker, but like just a number in the lower corner that is constantly changing up and down based on the pace they're going. So like if you like see it, like just like like an odometer that goes up and down and drops and raises based on the speed that they're going would be cool. I don't care about world record pace or Olympic record pace. Oh, that's the worst. No one gives a fuck about Olympic records. Excuse me. This is an explicit podcast now.
We have family. Only Alon's allowed to cuss on this show. Alon has a bleep button ready.
But Olympic records are like the stupidest thing in my opinion of all time. It's just like it's just a coincidence. An Olympic record is a coincidence. That's all it is. That's all it is. But world records would matter if you know that that's the purpose of the race. But sometimes they put world record on there when it's not the purpose of the race, and it kind of gets weird. But yeah, just the pace that they're at would be cool.
Yeah, for swimming, the world record line makes sense because every race is a world record. That's my understanding of swimming, especially in the Olympics. But for track, it's not how it works.
Yeah.
I liked your Megacast. I think that's kind of what you're referring to, that you did at Peyton Jordan. Well, last year it really got cooking last year, right? Where you were able to update in real time the splits, like the times got entered, and then you could have a calculation. People want to see that stuff, and there are occasions where I'm thinking of the women's 10,000 in 2016. Ayana just goes out and it's like crazy pace, and they run so fast that you lose track of the splits because it's faster than anything you've ever seen before. And in that instance, I think it would be helpful and I know that this stuff doesn't necessarily apply to the casual fan, but to the people who are tuning into track because they like track and they want to see track and they know a little bit about it. But it would be cool because then you could contextualize more within the race of, oh man, Molly Huddle's in 6th or 7th place, but she's still on American record pace. And you can't really get that without the data being put on the screen.
You know what I would want? 3-turn stagger 4x4s to have a visual of who is leading.
That's a good one.
So like on the right side of the screen, you just have like, just like a little, kind of like Mario Kart, whatever, of like who's in the front, like an overview that kind of puts it into a vertical as opposed to a circular, and you can just know like that person is actually ahead. That would be kind of cool. Or even like maybe they put like a highlight on that actual runner that is leading. So like it's like a glow of gold, a glow of silver, and a glow of bronze for who's the top 3 in order for the first lap of a 4x4. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, you could do that the whole way around in the regular 400 too, but that takes some of the drama out of it. I think people would push back and say, or the 400 hurdles because you want to see the stagger unfurl and you want to see who's actually ahead coming off the final curve. But I agree with you in the 4x4 because there's 3 legs to go after that. When you brought up earlier the fact that the flags in the lanes, to me that always felt like, okay, swimming did it, so track's gonna have to do it. But swimming's so different. You're not seeing them. You can't see. They don't have distinguishing uniforms on, so you have to put the American flag in there. No one was confused about who Bolt was when he was running the 100. You didn't need to put the Jamaican flag in his lane. You can either tell based on because you've seen them run before and you know what they look like, or you can just look at the jerseys and at least have some idea. The only time where I get confused is the 4x1 because it's just everything is happening so quickly. But I feel like that would be a graphics mess to try to figure out in the 4x1. I don't know how you clean that up, but that's one where you're like, wait, who dropped the stick? I'm not sure who's in front. Like there's so much chaos and confusion in that event that I feel like if a little bit was cleaned up, you could appreciate it more. But also, if you tried to clean out a little bit up, you could just make a mess of the whole thing and make it way convoluted. So I don't know how you'd fix that.
Yeah. I mean, I've said this in previous. I'm not sure if I said this in previous podcasts, but I think the 4x1 would be much more exciting if there was no exchange zones.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, but
Yeah.
do you get what I'm saying? Like, and you've commentated, so you know this. It's like the first
Oh, it's so
exchange
hard.
is just
Yeah.
it's
You have no
very
idea.
hard. Yeah.
I mean, let's be
Someone
honest.
dropped.
Most commentators, they pretend about, they just say like the favorites after the first leg. Like they just like focus on like who they know is like the favorite, and they'll be like, oh, clean exchange there for the first for USA, where you just you know what you're gonna say no matter what the first leg, because you just know it's like everything's together and there's no big change, right? And even then, even when you see like that backstretch, when you see like Gatlin go, you know that like it's you can't really tell the stagger difference yet because they're going so fast, and the stagger changes dramatically every time there's an exchange. That's the thing. Like you have the stagger, and all of a sudden it gets cut in half just because of a bad exchange that you can't prepare for. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess an overview thing would be good for 4x1. That'd be kind of cool.
It's just 16 people. It's 16 people in very close proximity running into each other, and trying to sort it out is super hard. I don't appreciate you giving away my commentary secrets there about the 4x1, because that's what's why I did. I think back to 2 years ago. No, it was Houston. Houston dropping the stick in the West prelim, and I knew what Mario Bark looked like, obviously, and you knew Houston was in the all red, but you want to make sure you get it right. So there's always a little bit of hesitation. Like you see a team that's out, and you don't want to yell Houston's out, and then 30 seconds later realize, wait, hold on, that's Houston running to the finish line here. They are not out. It's a different team in red, but it's so hard to get it right, like in a timely manner in that relay.
Yeah, I think at NCAAs last year, they're in the ESPN broadcast. I think it was Florida
right.
State. Was it Florida State that dropped the stick? And they said it was Texas Tech because they both were wearing like black. So like, oh, and Texas Tech doesn't. I was like, oh, Texas Tech, they're like in the team competition. That's like huge. And then you see them finish. You're like, oh no, they're fine. They got their points.
Yeah. That's one where like I would
TV
not
being confused.
That's one where I would not mind doing a tape delay, just like a minute tape delay, just like hold it just to make sure, because then there's so many DQ. Like, you can't watch, like in a 1500 and 100, you can watch one race go. It's so hard to watch 8 exchanges and make sure that they were all, you're watching from a bad angle too. You're not standing right there, so you have no idea whose was good. I mean, the ones that were obviously bad because they throw on the brakes, but it's very, very, very difficult to sort out.
Do you think so you got the 4x1. What about an 8x1? Yeah. What do you think that would be like?
I mean, that would be, if you're going to do 800 meters worth of running, I would probably rather do a 4x2. And I would not be, I would not be against a 4x2 being in the Olympics, by the way.
I think an 8x1 would be funny. For like not at the Olympic level, just like at a college level. I don't know, just like, because that's
so
like
you do you do the crazy stagger. That would be so hard to figure out who was that. Unless you don't want to, do you not want him to have lanes? Do you want it to be like a 4x4?
Yeah, no lanes. Yeah, you just shove. No rules too. It's like hockey rules. Like, hey, just get your position. Like like just box out, right?
No, they do the first 5. The first 5 of the 8 are in lanes, and then they pass it to runner number 6, and runner number 6 breaks to the inside. And they better get there quick, because at the end of the straightaway is their teammate.
Yeah. I mean, they do lead off 4x4s at Penn Relays as a waterfall start, so why not?
How does that work? I haven't really witnessed that in person before. Does it go over smoothly?
I mean, it is what it is, right? The top people get lanes, but then like You just have to put someone who's willing to sprint in the beginning. I mean, it's a bunch of like college. It's a bunch of like low tier college kids and high school kids that have to do it. So they're kind of like, whatever. We're here for participation. So, I mean, I was in a 4x4 like that. We as our coach made us decided would change. Basically, put the fastest 200-meter guy first because it's like all about just like the guy who's going to sprint the fastest 100. Let him go first. And it was definitely not me because I was like, I always had the slowest opening 200. So they're like,
you were a tactical runner.
Yeah, I was a tactical 400-meter runner.
And the point of that was just to speed up so people didn't have to set blocks and things?
Yeah, that's the whole point. So they would make like the first 3 or 4 heats have blocks, which was like the fast people, and then everyone else is like, this, right? Shuffle up and deal, right? Go in there and run.
I know I have vague memory of them trying this at Mount Sac, and then it didn't go over very well. And I don't know if they abandoned. This is many, many years ago, and I don't know if they decided to keep it or what. But at that point, I had no idea it was being used at the Penn Relays. So
remember when they had to do waterfall at the trials for the 800? Was it the trials? Was that a USA's or some sort? Because it was the trials. It was Olympic trials because they had to. There was multiple like whatchamacallit?
Oh,
protests, and they had more than 8 people or 9 people in the field for like the next round, so they had to do waterfall start, I think, or they maybe put 2 in 1 lane. I'm not sure exactly what they did. Anyway, I think they need to bring the waterfall start back to the 800. These 800 runners do not need their own lane. Come on, start a waterfall. Be a man.
One of the most overwritten and overhyped things in professional track is there's too many people in this 800 or 1500. Like they'll have 10 in an 800 and it'll be the end of the world. Like they'll sort it out. They'll figure it out. I mean, you don't want to put 20 on the track.
Do you think we need lanes? Do you think we need a 1-turn stagger for an 800 on an outdoor track? Indoor track, it makes sense because it's so crazy. Yeah. But like,
no, I don't think you could at least do like that double waterfall setup if you want to give them a little bit of space. But I don't think you need it. I don't mind it. It doesn't bother me. What bothers me more is the relentless, just every single time there's USA's or Olympic trials, there's a protest and it just gets blown up about how it's ruining this or ruining that. It's just.
Here's a question: is a waterfall start unfair to like
for who?
Athletes? Are certain athletes having to run a further distance than others because of a waterfall start?
No, that's why it's waterfalled.
Yeah, but it's like fair. It just doesn't seem that like that curve is enough of a like you get they turn the curve on the outside like a foot, and you're like, you only give me a foot head start. I'm out in lane 8 and I only get a foot head start, right? It doesn't make sense visually. Like, what's the line? Is it actually everyone is running the exact same distance wherever you start on that line?
If you hold your line, yeah. If you hold your line, and then if you cut in, you're using distance to cut in. So if you went directly from 8 into 1 and stayed in 1 the entire way, I don't know. Someone who's an expert in geometry will write in FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com.
Like, is there a way to run a different route? Is there a way to run a different route where you end up not having to run the full mile? Like, you get to run a little bit shorter?
No. Well, I know there's a way not to do it, which is start in lane 1 and then go out to lane 8. That would be bad. That would not be. That would get you more than 400 meters.
Ooh, you know what would be kind of cool? It would be like in these miles and 15 and 5Ks or even 10Ks, right? Knowing the true distance that someone runs. Because a lot of times, people, it swings out to lane 3 or swings wide, and they're going in and out. And you want to know, like, how far did you actually run? Like, if there was a GPS tracker on the top of your head, like, what was the actual Strava segment distance you actually went? Did you actually run a mile, or did you end up running a 1.1 because you kept on getting into traffic? That would be interesting.
Yeah. No, that would be cool. And that's one where I think every event has its own little tweak because track and field is so event by event basis that you couldn't do one blanket thing like they do with swimming. But for that one, obviously the best thing would be the 1500, maybe the 800. If we had a crazy tactical 1500, it would be interesting. Because you could go afterwards and say, man, Manzano got second, but like look at the distance he covered compared to first. Or Jenny Simpson ran exactly 1,500.00 meters. She's really good.
Yeah, and then they had like because they do that in football, right? You have like a 20-yard touchdown, but then so the wide receiver ran like 40 yards for his 10-yard touchdown because he went out and then back, or like a punt return is like going zigzagging.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking of baseball when they do the what's it called? StatCast or whatever. What's the thing called? Where they're able to track them in the outfield, like the distance they covered, and then they get the speed. That's always interesting. Yeah, because you'd have like, I'm just thinking of like a big move in an 800 to get out of trouble, and say they do go wide and it pays off. It makes it seem that much more impressive. Oh man, look at how much distance they covered. Look at the rate that they were running.
Who do you think would have the average of the shortest distance run? It's Central, right? Central is always running the shortest distance of everyone in a race. Like it'd be cool to like when it comes down, be like, Central is always a top 3 in distance traveled for like shortest distance traveled. Like
well, and then again, I'm thinking of soccer, right, where they track the distance the entire time, and that's something that people are interested in. Yeah, the shortest travel thing would be interesting. Well, what you could do then, see, this is getting really nerdy, but then you could get into like, then you could get into like advanced stats with track, and then you could really quantify who is the best kicker, because we'd have ideas in our head of, oh, this person kicks really well, this person but you could go back and watch every single race, but you could actually put some math to it and figure out their kick rating. Like, oh yeah, on average, Central improves whatever percent placing over the last lap than relative to his competitors. You could create some actually interesting data. The 1500 is the best race for this because it's the most tactical of anything in track and field, and it involves interaction with the competitors. So it would be cool to get more stats on that, because I know the athletes look at that. Like when we had Nick Willis on and he was talking about how he was able to medal in Rio, and like sometimes, he usually it's the age old debate. Do you hug the rail or do you stay outside and stay out of trouble? Like you'd actually get interesting data and numbers on that and on each athlete specifically. It'd be cool.
It would be
That's
cool.
what I'm doing if I'm a billionaire. If I'm a billionaire, I'm taking all of the MLB and Premier League tech and I'm dumping it in. That's what I'm doing.
That's why you would never be a billionaire. Billionaires are billionaires because they don't spend money on this.
But then I take my extra money and I start your sub 60-second elimination race. Now you're happy with my investment?
I'm happy. I'm happy for that sponsorship.
And I do the rest and I buy the Sixers some better players. And then we're all good.
Why do we got to start and end it like that, man? Like, come on. Whatever. We're gonna win. We're gonna win on Wednesday, and everything will be back to normal. So it's gonna be all good. It's gonna be all good.
Well, Lincoln might be back to talk to you about it on Thursday then. But I wanted to make sure.
Does Lincoln come back tomorrow?
He's coming back tomorrow. I don't know if he's gonna be on the pod tomorrow, but he will be.
Put him on the freaking pod, man. Put him on the pod. He needs to do the pod. We've done the pod so many days in a row. He can do the pod. Are you tired of
doing the pod with me? Okay. Maybe it'll just be a dad's pod tomorrow.
Yeah, do a dad's pod. You guys can talk about your kids and like be dads. Yeah, and I get a day off. I need a day off so I can prepare for my anxiety. Dude, this is the problem with sports fandom. I literally got sick last night. Like I got so stressed that I started developing like a sore throat. I had like a headache. My muscles hurt. It was like really bad. I was like, it was all triggered from. I mean, some people could say it's COVID, but it's not COVID. I mean, it was all triggered from just this anxiety and stress of watching a game. It's just like the anger, sports are the worst.
Yeah. Tell you. Yeah. No, I'm not a fan. That's why I'm gonna spend $1 billion to just get rid of sports. That's my other plan. All right.
That's a good idea.
FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com. Thanks to Gordon for co-hosting. You might see it tomorrow. You might not. Thanks to Lon for producing. We will talk to you guys next time. Remember the Continental Tour tomorrow, 10 a.m. live on FloTrack.